we doing, guys? Welcome to another recap show. I will say, I was excited to talk to Gov tonight because the Panthers are doing well. He's not a fair weather fan, Donnie. He's a real Panther fan, so I'm like, he's got to be excited about this. They actually have an outside chance at the playoffs, but he's actually under the weather, funny enough, for tonight. So we're gonna soldier on without him because we have I want to say we have in 8 days we have like three slates or something like that. So it's about to be very high paced in the DFS landscape, if you will, with all the slates coming up. So I'd much rather have Gov rested and ready to go. We'll give you a bit of a Thanksgiving kind of breakdown when we know, but we're going to plan on doing something. We just haven't locked it in yet. So we are going to try to cover as much as we can. Speaking of covering as much as we can, though, the spread picks, we lost again, Donnie.
Yeah, three for our lock. We are now in territory of we have to win out to be positive this year.
Now, honestly, some people they buy into the troll. They're like, you know what? I'm just gonna give out the most random wild stuff and continue the losing streak, and then hopefully, our viewers, our community, do the opposite, right? It becomes a gag. I promise you, I will never do that. If I believe, I will always give this show the best pick in my selection pool. Obviously, it has to correlate with you two. And I think that's part of the problem is we also want a good game for ourselves because we are in a competition. Like we do get the showdown captain, so it's a bit of an incentive. I mean, I do want to choose it
because it's a big incentive in the Super Bowl for sure.
It really is because it does set the lineup, right?
Yeah, it sets the whole tone for our lineup, so it is huge there.
And if you guys have tuned in on the weekends when we do the lineup builder show, this is the review. But if you have tuned in, we definitely build all three of us very differently. So it is quite the advantage to have the captain.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the full week slate of records, we have a comment from JT. So welcome in. Hopefully this goes well.
The JT that I'm used to hearing about in fantasy football this season. I'm used to hearing about Jonathan Taylor, but welcome. If you have any questions, by the way, just drop them in and we'll try to get to as many as we can.
All right. So, first of all, I think we need to take the biggest second. Gov still strong in last place at 9-13. He's never finished below, I think his worst record ever was 20 wins. He has never been this bad. We have capitalized, Logan.
We have.
We're both 12-10. I had a little slump in the middle there on that first column. So I had 2 weeks in a row with all red. And back in the win column, back tied for first at 12-10. It's, like I said, I don't care what happens. We just can't let Gov win it again. That's all I care. I'm like, it's collusion at this point.
The Chiefs are having a bad year when they need a game. There's always been a notion that if the Chiefs are favored by less than a touchdown, you can still take them because they're such an explosive team. They're such a good team. But now they need the game, Donnie. They could afford to lose this last one, but I thought for sure we were going to see the best version of the Chiefs, and maybe we have.
Off a bye week. Andy Reid doesn't lose off buys. This team has talent. I felt like defensively, maybe not as much. Obviously, Chris Jones is a shell of himself, but this is the kind of week you expect. Okay, Chris Jones vintage day. We saw the Kelsey vintage day, and we didn't get much of that. We had a sloppy Mahomes pick. This is just not the Chiefs team we've seen the last decade. And I thought for sure this week of all weeks we'd get it.
And last year they kind of went on the emergency ramp, if you will, where it's they weren't a good team, but they snuck into the playoffs. They went a hell of a playoff run. So I think maybe that ballooned us up too much this season where we're where we can kind of put on our blinders. But this might be the year they come to roost where it's they're just not going to be able to do it.
Well, I felt like this team was better than last year's. And, last year they were at 11-0 in one-score games. This year they're now 0-5 in one-score games. That's not Andy Reid that we've come to know.
I only bring that up to say this could be the show pick that actually wins this week because they have to win now. If we're going to see any ounce of the Chiefs in the playoffs, it has to be.
They have to go essentially undefeated the rest of the year. They might have one more loss they can take.
Yeah.
I mean, they have zero wiggle room. 11-6, I think, is the bare minimum this year. The way the teams are turning out, it's so top heavy this year. There isn't any room for error.
And again, just to slide it in, we do this on Friday, so if you guys want to know how we get here. But I think I saved Gov from a loss because I thought he also liked the Texans. That
You
ended up
saved
losing.
me from the Chiefs. You saved him from the Texans and saved
Yeah.
me from the Chiefs. So you took the bullet there.
Well, I appreciate that because I can be at least a medic while I'm. Call me the medicine man, I guess. Because I mean, but I told you, when we were doing these spread picks, that's how like either I win or I lose, and that's just kind of how I play in general. And it's made this competition very interesting. I'll say that.
Yeah. While we're on this, let's just switch over to the lineup builder. How did you feel about this week of games? Because I enjoyed this week.
I liked it actually.
There was
As soon as I switch
so many
over to
like
you,
Sean. Yeah, there was so many Sean Tuckers and Michael Wilsons and all those guys.
well, while you fix your internet, Donnie, I'll fill in. But Tucker was being propped up late in the week by one of my DFS, like one of the premium services I cover for DFS. They were just like, "Hey, look, Tucker could get the usage. They really liked the coach speak this week. They thought he was like a potential fill-in because White had been like decent but nothing explosive, and he just kept railing that he thought the Bucks were going to have to be explosive against Josh Allen." But I'm like, you know what I thought, Donnie? I thought, well, that's kind of risky. I was like, we have him in best ball. So I was happy. That's what I did to myself because he kept talking him up. I'm like, if he goes off, I'll be happy because we have him in best ball. I'm not going to jam him into a lineup because I thought about it. It looked good. But I actually like DeMarcado better, thinking he was going to get some like garbage time run by the Cardinals because every time the Cardinals are down in games recently, they just throw the heck out of the ball. So I was all over the Cardinals game, including Wilson, which I got there. But this week was really just a chain of players. If you didn't have Josh Allen and like you could have had Josh Allen with a stack of basically any of his receivers and you would have still cashed because we talked about it with the Gabriel and Tillman thing last week. It was the combined points in this case of Allen and basically a zero would have still got you there just because he scored like 46 points. It was pretty impressive.
But see, I had the same thing with Sean Tucker. I have him best ball. I didn't want to get him anymore. The other exposure I did get him in is I did have a parlay with him in that cash, so that was fun. Mm-hmm. But so I got my benefit from Sean Tucker. I will run home with what I got. I didn't put all the chips on the table, and I'm fine with that. But he only got 44% of the snaps. Like, it wasn't crazy.
No, it wasn't. But the idea was with that premium services, he's going to get all the explosive plays, and that's what they were apparently unhappy with. With White was getting good volume, and he wasn't turning over the ball, but like they needed that like Patriot Henderson kind of explosion, and they got it this week. Now I am so happy to have him in best ball because that was exactly the best ball kind of pick. It's like we don't know if he'll be good, but if you're going to take a guy in the later rounds in best ball, you take the guy that might a flash and get the explosive plays, and that's exactly what we got. You guys might notice that my bankroll is going down, and I want to be transparent about that. We talk about fair weather fans and just DFS, in general. Donnie won a couple weeks ago, took first place. So this just proves that like my process right now is in a downslope, but it's still the same process. Donnie's when he won, it's the same process. So, but here's the thing: if your process is bad, you do have to adjust. So maybe this is a week where I play like a few less dollars in a bankroll because I got to build it back up, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I just want to mention, I don't want to always come on here and be like, here I show you my losing lineup, and I don't mention like I'm also in a losing streak. But that's seasonally DFS. You're going to lose more than you win, and when you win, you want to capitalize on it the best you can.
And I just want to point out.
Go ahead.
Into that. We talk about Sean Tucker so much. We haven't brought up Kenneth Gainwell at all. He was 4,100 under a percent owned. 30 points. But
Warren got hurt, right?
I'm not sure. But
I,
Kenneth Gainwell, I don't care because he had 7 catches. 7
yeah.
catches with Mason Rudolph. That's something we have to look at.
Yeah, but I think Warren did get hurt, which obviously is going to bump up his uses. But you're right; he's been involved this season in that offense, and that's honestly why I didn't like
catches
Warren.
with the backup quarterback is really what I'm like, oh my god about. Gainwell did have 63% of the snaps, but
Yeah. Well, that's a good call, and that's honestly why I didn't like Warren. He, obviously didn't predict the injury, but I just like Gainwell has been getting work, and you're right; he has been the receiving option for that team.
63% of the snaps this week for Gainwell. So I know they got rid of the run a bit with the injury, but still.
Mm-hmm. But I like this lineup coming in. It just Aaron Rodgers obviously got hurt. We don't know what that would have done. Obviously, you lose. Like that's just a week where you're like, okay. I'm not saying we should have won. I'm not saying we would have won but once he basically got hurt, I just closed this lineup out. I didn't look at it anymore this week because I knew when a quarterback like Josh Allen scores 46 and then your quarterback gets injured, there's just no chance this lineup has any firepower left.
Yeah, and Harvey was close to a touchdown this week. He was in the red zone a lot.
But he got vultured by the backup.
McLaughlin. Yeah, but that's you kind of expect that. But he was close on receptions, or I forget if it was a pitch play or whatever. He almost got in a couple times, so that's something okay. Obviously, Aaron gets hurt. Your route, or not route, but your
our route to victory was basically gone when Rodgers gets hurt.
Yeah, no, but even our target share with prior move changes because Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, you're right. We're still having some inconsistency with your internet, Donnie, but I'm sure you know that by now. But like we even saw some unusual stuff from Puka. He fumbled in that game, a very crucial moment. So like even your more consistent guys. But honestly, I'd rather snowflake like this and just have no chance than be like, oh, if we could have made one play, difference, we would have won a lot of money. That wasn't this week, at least I'll say that. Like the lineup that we built, it was going to ice skate the whole week. There was no chance it was going to win anything major, and I'm okay with that. It's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, I'm kind of out on Woody as well. Woody and Genty, I think, like for me, those two, I'm so out on, not because of the talent, because of what's in front of them. If you don't have blocks, you can't get the ball going. And they'll have their eventual week. I know Genty had one big one, but that's few and far between. Very, very few and far between with how their teams are.
Yeah, it's a great point that you brought up offensive lines too, because Woody got the workload. Like I might go back to it because I always glutton for punishment, Donnie. Because once I see the workload, I just believe in it. Like Kamara always does that to me. It's like he gets so much receiving work, and I know Woody's a pass catcher, but you're right. I think Woody got like 19 carries this week, and still
press on it. See what he actually was at. I know he was 80% of the snaps.
Yeah, true. They don't always update quick enough, so I don't know if they'll have it. But
yeah, they do. 18 in one target, so 19 touches. I mean,
yeah, like 19 touches against a really bad team in Tennessee. It's not so much that their defense is bad because they have been improving, like from the defensive end, but just that team, the game script is usually very bad. I would have played this again had you told me he was going to get 19 touches, but you're right. He's only averaging 2.4 yards in this game. The offensive line just wasn't opening up anything.
Yeah, no, there's certain teams that just struggle to run the football consistently. The Raiders, obviously, the Texans, the Patriots have a lot of issues with yards per carry this year. Mm-hmm. Even when I know Henderson's blown up, but his yards per carry outside of that one blow up week with 270 yarders, it's not good. So there's just some teams where unless you're getting that touchdown upside and the Texans offense doesn't give it to you, the Raiders offense doesn't give it to you, these are the teams you kind of just got to avoid sometimes. Henry wasn't there at some points without Lamar. He wasn't getting the touchdown upside.
Well, I mentioned about how you want to go process over play sometimes or process over like results. And this week's a perfect example. We got the Gabriel outcome last week with the 20 points, and Tillman just didn't come along with it, and we had some other fails. This week, Tillman, we went back to it because we believe in his talent. You see, he hit value. If Gabriel didn't get hurt, I have a lineup that cashes because I had a Gabriel, basically this version of the lineup, a lot of the same pieces, but instead of Rogers, I had got to Gabriel. I think that lineup probably cashes, maybe potentially has a chance at least. So sometimes you're on the right play, just not the right lineup, just at the right time.
I will say it was a process mistake, kind of, because we said, specifically me, I was the biggest pusher of this. I was like, I'd rather the ceiling of Tillman than go to Michael Wilson when we already have McBride, and that was just wrong. It happened to be wrong this week.
Well,
yeah, I mean, you can't predict Jacoby going 47 of 57.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. And by the way, Donnie, I had a lot of Michael Wilson. I didn't cash a single lineup this week. So
if this one had Wilson, it probably cashes though, and we didn't even have to make a change.
Probably, you're right. Maybe, but I mean, this is the kind of week we're talking about where it was either Josh Allen or Jacoby Brissett in lineups.
Yeah, but there's no way I'm playing Christian Watson. I know, like I was hesitant on any Packers because we had so much issues with everyone, but Romeo, I think it was, had a Q tag. Yeah. So I was just kind of like, I don't know. And I got off it. I almost got to Golden, but I saw a hammy, and I was like, not with the hamstring. I'll never. That's the one thing in my process always. I'll never play a wide receiver with a hamstring. That's just one of my few things. So even if it's the best receiver in the world and he says he's fine and everything says he's fine, I'm still not going to touch it.
Well, I just wanted to mention, it had to be an over-leveraged game stack this week because I had Greg Dortch, I had Michael Wilson, I had Trey McBride. Those three guys were on every one of my lineups this week in some capacity. But I didn't win a single thing because everyone just loved the Jacoby Brissett. And to be honest with you, he had a really bad game, but he got there fantasy-wise because of the workload. If that continues...
we are not going to call 47 of 57 a bad game. I know we had 2 picks, but 47 of 57 is so efficient.
The Cardinals had a bad game.
The Cardinals had a bad game. Yeah. He did not have a bad game.
Good correction. But I'm just saying the outlook of fantasy points and the competitiveness of a game are very different sometimes. We saw that with Tim Tebow and his fantasy outlook. We've seen it with Bo Nix, for example, some of his performances, where it's like if you looked at it from a quarterback school, it's not a good performance, for your team because he got there in mostly garbage time. That game was never competitive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jacoby, 57 passes, only 8 of them hit the ground. I know too much of the defense, but damn, that's...
Well, and the fantasy review I was watching this week pointed it out, Donnie. Sometimes you have to know the offense that you're betting against or for in this case. We have to give the Cardinals some credit fantasy-wise. When they are down in games, they are just chucking. Everyone wanted to play Jameis this week because they're like...
We said that, though. We said that going into this week. We know the Cardinals are going to pass a crazy amount.
Yeah. I just thought it was a good week to bring it up because the Cowboys basically need the ball all 4 downs in the last possession. So, there are some teams that are going to just play real conservative and real aggressive, and the Cardinals are playing really aggressive. There's not a game script where, and I thought I was being super contrarian and really smart by playing either Trey McBride, Greg Dortch, or Michael Wilson in every lineup. I never once considered Jacoby Brissett. Maybe that's a weakness in my game. Maybe that's a leak where if I don't plug it, I'm just gonna not gonna win. We'll let Donnie fix himself there. But I don't really think any defenses really stood out as had to have them. There was obviously some better defenses. I know a lot of people went with the Texans defense. It was definitely a 2 tight end type of week. George Kittle and McBride obviously got there as the tight ends. But McBride this week at 6,300 was basically just a wide receiver. If you treat him like a wide receiver and then you played another tight end, you probably did pretty well. We obviously did that even with Pat Fryinbooth. We didn't get there, obviously, but I saw a lot of the lineups that were winning used 2 tight ends just because it made sense. The Giants had a lot of injuries as well. So Johnson on their end was a cheap option, and I just thought this double tight end idea was glorious. I think Donnie mentioned it, and that's why you wanted to jam in Frying. Obviously, our points didn't get there, but that just shows you that we were on the right process by playing the two tight ends in a lineup like this.
Yeah, and honestly, the better play would have ended up instead of Kittle, who got 2 touchdowns. It was Kelsey, who got there for a little bit cheaper. But I feel like we're at the point where, that it's that time of the season now. The bad teams are going to just say F it. The good teams, when they're in big games, are going to go straight to their superstar at all times at this point. We have all the data. We know what teams are going to do. We know what teams like to do. And
Well, and another good point I was hearing today when I was listening to those review shows, Donnie, to that point, is DraftKings also knows this stuff. So the prices are usually more kind of casual. They're loose. They want people having fun. They want you to build like a superstar team because they want you to fall in love with the product. They want you to fall in love with the theory of it. Like, here's this puzzle piece. You can get everyone. They love that in the beginning of the year. When the price pools start to slim down and people aren't playing as casually anymore, that's when the prices go up, because once the prices go up, they rarely go down. So we're kind of at that point where it's like everything is pretty much price adjusted and it's harder and harder to find value.
Now, how high owned do you think Shedeur is this week at 4,200? Honestly,
I think he would have been higher if he had a consistent target or he looked somewhat competent, but he looked so bad that
I know like overall in a vacuum he was awful. He was bad.
Yeah.
But I saw some things, some big play opportunities. Obviously spins out of a sack, rolls out to his left, sets his feet, and delivers a 30-yard strike, and it just sails over his receiver's head. That to me is kind of like, oh, I haven't run with the ones ever.
Yeah.
That's fixable. And there's some things that Shedeur just he's not ready, but he's you gotta be at this point. You're either ready or this is your shot. You prove you belong or you're gone because they don't want you here.
I was gonna say it's a lot like Jacoby Brissett for me. It's like I don't need Shedeur to go to quarterback school. I already know he's not ready. But Donnie, I love stars and scrub lineups, and you're gonna give me a young quarterback who's going to take chances just because he's young and just because he wants to be a showman. He also runs the ball. I don't like Justin Fields is not a good quarterback. No one would tell you he's a good fundamental quarterback. But he's a good fantasy option because he's a gambler, because he runs so much, because he does so much stuff unorthodox. And so because Shedeur could run and because Shedeur is going to be low owned, and I know that, at least on some level, and he's 4,200, I feel like he doesn't – it's almost like that Gabriel play. Like I'd play Gabriel if he was the starter with the same idea. It's like he has the ability to scramble. You're cheap enough.
I think it's different, though, because, like, Shedeur doesn't have the luxury of being okay. Like, he can't dink and dunk like Dylan Gabriel. He needs to make you say, wow, or he is gone. He is, like, he'll never get a shot with Cleveland.
Yeah.
And, like, he needs to put pressure on ownership to say, no, he's the guy you're putting Gabriel on the bench. So it's almost like he's either going to suck so bad that it's just like, okay, he's not it. Or he could just have these crazy explosive plays, and it's like, well, Gabriel's chance in the NFL is kind of done.
And let's be honest, if he has that bad game, we give him the Aaron Rodgers treatment this week, where it's like, oh, he got hurt, or this lineup is dead. But if it is anywhere what we got with Gabriel, then it's a good play. I do think there's bad ways to do it, Donnie. Like the way I play with the stars and scrub mentality makes sense, because I also want to play Shedeur at his price for what he allows the lineup to do. And because he looks so bad and has a polarizing name, I do think people will not want to click it just because they're like, he has this showmanship, he has a name, and then he failed. So it's like it's almost become a meme to like make fun of him. But we know he's not ready. But that's honestly why I kind of want to play him, because he might not throw, he might run for an extra 20 yards where it's only his point, Stuff like I played a lot of Tim Tebow. He was never a good quarterback, but he put up tons of fantasy points because of the way he plays.
If you looked at the numbers in a vacuum, you're going to say it was awful. Like, there's going to be a lot of people scared
Right.
off the play. But if you watch the tape and you see, like, oh, wow, he scrambled here and got 5 yards, and that could turn into a 10-yard run. Or, oh, he spun out of a sack and found his receiver downfield. Yeah, he sailed it, and I get it. You got a nickel. But he did the hardest part. He set his feet. He did the right mechanical stuff. He just kind of sailed it.
And even if he doesn't do the mechanical stuff, it's almost like the Jameis Winston when he was at his prime and everyone loved to play him in fantasy. It's like you would play Jameis and you play the defense he was playing against because you're like, well, they might throw a pick six, and then Jameis will have to throw because he's down and the game script says to pass the ball. Like, I'm not saying that Shador's going to have a good stat line. I just think based on his price and what he can do athletically, he could get there but it has to make sense. You have to then play like the stars.
If he gets 15 points for me, because I'm going to be playing extra because Shador, and I'm not a Shador guy. I really am not. But he weirdly impressed me for being awful.
I just like it when you got to give me a cheap player. It could be a running back who's going to touch the ball a lot at a cheap price, and I don't need much from it. And then I can pay up for the consistency that a lot of other lineups cannot. And like that's what Shador is to me. He's like a running back that might be able to pass. And if that running back can pass, Donnie, that's good for my lineup because, and especially you talk about his ownership to start this conversation. I think because everyone saw the high praised Josh Allen, the mechanical wizard, the fun quarterback to watch, the sure thing, people are going to want to return to that. Usually people do like favor whatever worked the previous week. So I do think more people will go towards the higher owned quarterbacks this week. So that's a good call out. We might be looking at a snowflake at our quarterback position again, Donnie. I think we're both fine with that. Is basically what we're saying. Like, you have to make stand somewhere. We can't just play everyone. That's just not how this game works.
Yeah. And we talked about it a bit, and we'll talk about it. I think a lot of the stars this week are in such bad spots or game environments. So it's going to be interesting if you even want to do stars and scrubs, really.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. But I was just going to show my 3 in lineups here where I did play the Cardinals. Like I even told you, like I have Michael Wilson. We talk sometimes in the middle of the afternoon slate just to see if we have any, sweats. I had Mark Andrews and Wilson and like some good performances, but that to get 6 points out of Lamar Jackson, when I should, when basically around the same price you can get Josh Allen, that's just going to kill your lineup.
Lamar hasn't been running as much this year. Like, I don't know. That 10 rush yards from Lamar Jackson, that's like unheard of. That feels like career low.
I actually kind of played it with that narrative, Donnie, because I'm like, he hasn't been running, he hasn't been blowing out. He's not the same Lamar, but he could do that in flashes. And if that game stays competitive and close, I think they'll need Lamar Jackson to win it.
The Browns' defense is always tough to gauge anything against because they are really good.
Yeah,
and they stayed in the game offensively. I know they only scored 16, but
yeah, no, you're not wrong.
It felt like the Browns controlled a good portion of the game until Gabriel got hurt. So
yeah, in fact, you could argue that if Gabriel doesn't get hurt, maybe they deserve to win. Obviously, Kelsey missed Worthy on a long touchdown. That's exactly why I'm playing it. It's that Jameson Williams kind of like deep bomb. Obviously, we saw Watson in a lot of winning lineups, so that's kind of that was my contrarian version off of Watson. Did you have anything in lineups or any kind of lineup constructions you wanted to talk about? I know that Shador thing was on your mind from earlier. If not, we can just get because it's a week where we lost, but I thought we did some good things. But there's just a lot of snowflakes. It really was a week again where you just had to have you had to basically play game stacks of the Bills or the Cardinals.
Yeah, see, I had a lot of ice dating this week.
Yeah,
I had a lot of like Ibuka. I had Nakua. I had like I think one of my few flames was CMC, and I was in. By CMC and McBride were my two.
I was waiting for your internet to fix up.
Yeah.
Try that one more time, Donnie. Your internet cut out on us, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I had only 2 flames this week between 2 lineups, and that was McBride and CMC. Like,
Yeah.
I played a lot of Puka. I played a lot of Moody Marks. I played Pat.
Does a week like this make you want to play more game stacks, or do you think like people are going to overreact to that and that's just not your style?
Game.
No, like a heavy, because like if you won this week, it was like you played Michael Wilson, you played
Yeah.
Brissett.
I think we've had a lot of weeks like that this year.
Yeah,
I mean, a strange amount.
yeah, we have. That's what I'm saying. Like, I might need to go under the hood in the off season because that's like for me that's like an off season. If I'm going to make that kind of change in my build, I have to basically do that in the off season. I think if I did that now at this point, I don't think I would build a good lineup. I haven't played around with that theory enough. I haven't really done it. Like, sure, I can do a one off of it, but if I'm going to change up my building process and the way I see the slate, I think I need more time to actually do that.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I only did that once this year, and that was one of my bigger like main slate wins.
Yeah.
So it's just I forget. It was a Cowboys game when I did like the Pickens, Lamb, Dak stack, and so obviously, but you know, I do think there's times for it. Like, no, I don't know. The Arizona game, that was never on my mark to score 63 points in an uncompetitive game. I wouldn't have ever game stacked that.
Yeah, I will favor a game. Like a couple weeks ago, I favored the Rams in a game, and I even favor this game with the Rams in Seattle. But I rarely like play 4 guys in the same team. That's just not usually what I do. It has been working this year if you can get it right, but it fails too. You know, it's just one of those high.
For every time you get a game right, you're probably getting another game wrong, like
right.
3 times.
Which is okay as long as you're willing to eat those losses. Like I said, right now I'm on a downswing, but it's like I believe in my process. I still have a lot of cash. Like I have a rule where if I make so much money in a year, I take out a certain percentage. I can always put that percentage back. That was still money I won this year, so I'm okay. And like even you on the opposite end, on you won money, and like one of my biggest things was like just don't change your bankroll too much. You know, like have some fun, do some more experimenting. Maybe you have a little more money to play with. So that's when you have fun and you try different things a little bit, but you still want to stay within yourself. So hopefully we've shown you that because, you know, I see a lot of people be like, well, if I would have just played the Cardinals, I would have won this week. It's like, no, I played Cardinals and lost, you know. It was going to happen. And then you could play the Bills. If you played like a James Cook this week, you lost because Josh Allen had 3 rushing touchdowns. So I think however the game environment goes with how you build your lineup is the best way to do it. It's just sometimes you're not going to get that game environment right. But with that being said, Donnie, I think I covered all what I was hoping to cover this week. Hopefully we gave you some nuggets. If you guys want, you can leave a like and a subscribe. It means a lot. You can leave any comments throughout the week. Again, we'll be back on Friday. So if you have any comments you want to leave, any lineup ideas, anything you kind of want to bring up about the slate into week 12, we'd love to hear it. We'll incorporate it on the show if it's good enough on Friday, and we'll see you then. Don, you going to give them the peace out in Cubs honor?
Yeah. Peace out, everybody.
Good night, guys.